With that being said, hopefully you guys got the one sheet PDF file that was in the email that I sent out there. You can follow along on that if you like. I will see if I can send that into the group. Cam, are you able to just tell people the order for those of you, those that don't have it poured yet?
Yes, I can. Okay, the first one is Marmalade Overdrive. The second one is The Youth of Today. Third one is Millions of Peaches. Number 4 is Hanky Panky in the Den. Number 5 is Straight No Chaser. Number 6 is Mary Cherry Sherry. And the last one is Fruit Time Travel.
Yeah, I think that's Fruity Time Travel. I could be wrong there. I am just going to save that or send that PDF into here for those of you that didn't grab it in the
Chris
first time.
Put it in the chat box there, so thanks, Chris.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris, for jumping ahead of me there. So there's a PDF as well. And let's dive in with whiskey number 1, which is Marmalade Overdrive. I think this is a little bit of a play on Maximum Overdrive, which I believe was a Stephen King written and also directed movie, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. So 50% alcohol on this guy. Obviously more than one cask going into here. 2,658 bottles. First fill barrels and hogsheads for your casks, and from the 6th of July. Michael says AC/DC did the soundtrack. Well, that's cool, because there seems to be a little bit of a musical theme going through some of these bottles as well. Very marmalade driven on the nose. Very sort of jammy and citric at the same time, I'd say.
I'm getting candies on it too.
Yeah, candied lemon and lime notes for me. Definitely some orange and tangerine as well. Little bit of vanilla and some wood spice in the background. Yeah, Chris says, who made who was the big tune for that one? I'll be honest with you, since remembering that Millions of Peaches is in the lineup, I've had the presidency of the United States of America stuck in my head for the last 24 hours or so. What do you think, Cam?
It's good. I like it.
Yep.
Tastes a little
easy
hotter.
drinking.
It's hotter than 50%. It feels hotter than 50%.
It's got some hot heat and spice that come in on the finish there.
Wow.
Maybe that's the overdrive. It's still pretty vanilla driven, a little bit creamy up front before those spice notes kick in. Touch peppery.
I got buttered popcorn in the tasting notes. I think that's pretty good. Melted salted butter. I'm getting that on the palate.
Yeah, actually that buttery more than creamy when you put it like that, especially with that saltiness coming through. Yeah, almost has that movie popcorn style to it, where it's like salty and a little bit drying.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good start.
What do you guys think of this one? Just gonna add a little bit of water to see what happens. Probably doesn't need much at 50.
Probably might kill it.
Yeah. I wonder what distilleries may have gone into that. There is no specific background information given on that by the society, so I'm not just playing with you guys this time around.
No, water was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Especially for something, and we didn't talk about it this, but this was finished in Australian Shiraz casks, was it not?
Yes.
Yep. Which is not a cask you see a lot of whiskeys finished in, that's for sure. Could be where those spicy peppery notes are coming from, maybe. Not usually a wine cask guy, but this one's done quite well. Like, it doesn't go overly winey for me. It doesn't go astringent on the palate. It's juicy, it's spicy, it's buttery, as we talked about.
It's wine casks are really hit and miss. This one's not too bad.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's go on to whiskey number 2. And I think most people here know the drill, but I should have said up front, this is a lightning round for us. So we're tasting through everything quick. And then we'll taste through everything again for the reveal on the second time through, where we give you the distillery, bottle number, and the pricing and the age. So keep a bit in your glass as we're going along. So on to whiskey number 2, which is the youth of today. This guy is from one First Fill ex-bourbon barrel, 12th of November for the day, 220 bottles from the Outturn, 60.4% alcohol. So jumping up by just a little over 10% from the first one there.
Super waxy on the nose.
Oh, that's a good call. It's almost like you doused like a beeswax candle with Sprite for me, where you get a lot of these sort of effervescence, 7-Up and Sprite notes for it on the nose.
Yeah, I could see that.
Nose is a little bit muted versus the marmalade driven style on the first one for me. A little bit of wood spice coming through now.
Really salty.
Ooh, good call. Chris Walker says grandma perfume and laundry sheets. Nice. I can see the laundry sheets. I think my grandmother might have worn a different perfume though.
See, I found the other one a little more hotter, spicier.
Mm-hmm. This one definitely has some heat and some spice to it, but I agree. Really nice juiciness on the front of the palate. Full on juicy fruit gum along with the waxiness there. Going into a little bit more lemon pledge and like a sweeter, sappy note on the nose now after first sip. Will says pink bubble gum and some clay. Those are good notes, man. Still getting the laundry sheets on the nose, as Chris mentioned as well.
That one's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that juiciness. It does have a finish that's more sort of like nutty, woody, and spicy.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Almost into like macadamia nuts, or even into those Marcona almonds with the creaminess and the saltiness that we sometimes get on our boards for the tastings from Peasant Cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Chris says he definitely prefers the nose over the palate.
Well,
I'm the other way around. I prefer the palate.
Yeah, I like the palate too. Put a little water in it, and the Sprite you were talking about comes out more.
Oh yeah,
with water. Yeah, I thought so.
I added a few drops, so we'll see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that like a slight tanginess, but also again that sort of like effervescence that comes along with it as well. Right on. Well, good start.
It's almost like it's fizzing in my mouth too. like a fizz, like carbonated.
It does. It does have that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Oh, I like that one.
Okay, next up is the one where the song's been stuck in my head for the last 24 hours or so, which is Millions of Peaches.
What song is that?
So it is a song from the 90s by the Presidents of the United States of America, where the chorus is millions of peaches, peaches for me, millions of peaches, peaches for free. I tossed some lyrics in on the tasting notes that I gave you there, or on the notes.
Oh, okay.
Peaches come from a can. They were put there by a man in a factory downtown.
It's like those fuzzy peaches on the nose.
Oh yeah,
all peaches.
We're all over the place. Fuzzy peaches, and then like a little bit of nail polish in there as well for me. It's fuzzy peaches, and you've gone for a mani-pedi to the manicure shop, and you brought some fuzzy peaches and pistachio nuts along for a snack.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you peaches.
Had to let Debbie smell it.
Does Debbie agree?
She does on this one. She usually doesn't agree with anything we say, but
I mean, I wouldn't want someone to give it to me if I was having mani-pedi, but
on the palate too. It's all
Yeah.
peaches.
is it really?
All
Oh my
peaches. It's like a multitude of different types. Like it's canned peaches. It's like a slightly woody peach that you pulled off the tree and started eating. One that's a little bit green as well and is not fully ripened. Fuzzy peaches as well.
Yeah,
Debbie agrees. It tastes like peaches.
yeah, it's pretty good
Yeah.
actually.
She likes it. Might have found a Scotch she likes. That's not good
That's
for
right.
me.
No, if I had my little way, I'd eat peaches every day.
That is good. That is.
That was really good.
I've never tasted anything like that
Yeah, it's crazy, eh?
in a whiskey.
So Will says the peach and nail polish are very descriptive. It's almost a bit like an artificial flavor, though. It has some wine gum flavors mixed in as well. Yeah, I agree with that. Phil and Suzanne say, well, I'm allergic to peaches, but I love this. That's from Sue. Thank you, Suzanne.
Oh, this is, yeah.
Yeah, so many peaches. Very appropriate name for this one.
So is that just the cast? That's obviously just the cast that's giving it that flavor. Like,
I honestly think it's the combination of cask and their distillate. But we'll have to get into that a bit more. This was in a second fill ex-bourbon barrel, so it wouldn't have been like a full-on barrel-driven experience for this one necessarily. From the 8th of September, 167 bottles from the Outturn, 58.2% alcohol. It's got like a hard edge sort of minerality to it as well, where it doesn't soften up really on the palate.
did you have
Did you
water?
try this one with water?
No, I'm going to do that right now.
Same. Yeah, Will says this is really characteristic of the distillery. No spoilers there, Will. So Chris says this is a weird one for me. Not sure if I like it or not. Honestly, I think it's a lot of fun, but Chris, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Full disclosure, this is a sister cast to something we've had relatively recently before we go on to the full-on reveal. But the first one we had, I had some similar notes on the nose. It is kind of artificial in a way. Not in a, like, did they flavor this kind of way, but it definitely comes off as a little bit chemically, hence the nail polish, maybe acetone notes that I'm getting off there as well. But it's really quirky and interesting because of that. Yeah, that's a different song there, phone Suzanne, is it not? I'm trying to think. That's another late '90s song from what I can recall. Steve, well, I guess I should have gone back further than the '90s then.
I do agree with Chris. I'm not sure it's for me, but that would be a cool one to have in your collection.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's so different. That it's different than anything I have. That's for sure.
There is, along with the peach note, like if he knows it more and more, I'm getting a celery salt note off there, and even into a bit of seasoning salt on the nose. Okay, on to number 4, which is called Hanky Panky in the Den. And there is a lot of Canadian references in here.
Yeah.
I might just share my screen on this one for those of you that haven't opened the PDF. So Hanky Panky in the Den, initial cask, first ex-bourbon hogshead, finished in a first fill Oloroso hogshead, 19th February for the date, 105 bottles to be outturned, 52.1% alcohol. And mentions of the Tragically Hip are in here. Empress Hotel from Victoria. And although us Canadians love the hip, they didn't really travel beyond maybe Buffalo and small pockets of the US. They didn't do as well internationally as some other Canadian bands like Rush and the Guess Who have done in the past. Definitely get the marmalade note in there that they mentioned. That kind of harkens back to Marmalade Overdrive even. I'm still getting peaches, but that might just be remnants of the last bottle. I'm not sure.
Makes me think
of apricots.
Makes me think of cheesecake, this one.
Oh, that's a good call.
I can't figure out which flavor of cheesecake though.
Maybe like if I'm going in that direction, almost into a blueberry cheesecake. Or maybe even a bit of cherries in there. The water note on this makes it sound like it goes very, very savory. So I'm gonna have to try that in a sec. Will says this one has great artwork. Yeah, it does. It should, well, we'll have to pull up that label afterwards. Creme brulee cheesecake. Chris says wine gums, vinegar, and nougat for Will Christie.
Yep, that's a good call there, Chris. Creme brulee cheesecake, yep.
And it does have a bit of a vinegar note, even something like just a little bit sharp on there. Ooh, goes like drier and nutty on the finish there in a cool manner. It's almost like you've got a few peanut skins left in your after shelling some peanuts.
I really like this one.
Yeah. A little bit of latex paint on the nose now. I'm gonna add a little bit of water and see what happens here. There's a decent amount going on this one though.
There is.
Goes a little bit more varnish like and away from latex paint for me with a little bit of water. Still getting a touch of that like a balsamic glaze, not full on vinegar on the nose for me.
Yeah, the cheesecake note is gone for me now with water.
Still a touch of it on the front of the palate, that cheesecake note, but the nuttiness stays, goes more toasted and roasted with some nice fruit notes in there.
Yeah,
More
this one's
leathery
good.
as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I quite like that one. That's
It might be my
it's kind of like a new school combined with old school when it comes to sherry, where you get this dryness to it, this austere note, but still very open and full of aromas and flavors at the same time.
This might be my favorite one so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I
On the
agree.
first go round.
What was that?
Yeah, on the first go round, couldn't
Mhm.
change. But yeah, I really like that one.
Well, let's put that aside for now and go to number 5, which is straight no chaser. So note on here says giving spirit bottle for the quarter. So this is where the Scotch Malt Whisky Society of Canada, aka Robin Kelly Carpenter, donate the proceeds from that they make from this bottle to a charity that they've chosen. And do you recall what the charity is this time around, Cam?
Yeah, it's on the last page. It is for the Red Cross, just based on all the forest fires and all that have been happening. Interesting note there. Their January one, they made $1,300 in their giving spirit bottle for January.
Very cool.
So I think that's great of them to do that.
Absolutely. So this is from a new oak barrel, 1st of February, 165 bottles, 61.6% alcohol. Society's notes mention New Orleans cocktail. We're definitely going into Americana here for some reason, not the Canadiana that we had with Hip on the last one, but into mentions of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, the Mississippi, Thelonious Monk, and jazz bands as well, Creole style bitters. Sazerac, I can see even maybe a little bit of old fashioned in here. Wooden rocking chair, like where it was varnished like a decade ago and it's just been weathering on the front porch. Nice cherry and spice notes in there as well.
Lots of cherry on the palate too.
Yeah, a little bit of orange marmalade again, which seems to be a theme for me on this one, on this lineup so far.
Vanilla and cherry, choke cherry.
Yeah, vanilla and cherry for sure. Great nose. Definitely some big time carpentry notes in there from the new oak.
It's very, very good too. Man, they're all good today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. Pretty rich stuff, nice sweetness on it.
Yes, yeah.
Lots of spice, lots of wood spice on the finish. Chris says this acts as a nasal depilatory. So you're getting some cooling menthol notes on there. I can kind of see that. Burnt out your nose hairs. Well, I better not stick my nose in too far then, because I've got plenty of hair to burn. Really nice wood-driven nose on that one. It's like smelling the inside of a cask.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just gonna try it with a few drops.
Good idea. Doesn't even taste like 61%.
No, not at all. Ooh, that the nose doesn't hurt with water. A little bit more like maple syrup or like caramelized brown sugar on there.
Yeah. Getting more wood on it too.
Yeah,
The cask smell.
yeah, big time cask smell again. Still getting that brown sugar note on there too. Almost into like barbecue notes, like if you've ever barbecued with cedar planks,
Oh yeah, yeah.
gets that nice sort of sweet and spicy note to it.
That's a great one. Cedar plank salmon. Do that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, man, this is. I liked it without water. A few drops of water on this one. Just as good, if not better. Very cool stuff. Mm. Definitely a lot of wood in there, but it's big, maybe a little bit chewy, but not overdone. Like it's still got a lot of sweetness going on and plenty of good spice in there too. Very neat.
What a great lineup so far.
No kidding. On to number 6, which is called Mary Cherry Sherry. Started its life in the first, ex Oloroso butt. Finished its life in a first fill ex or Oloroso ex Bodega butt. Bodegas being where they make sherry and often sherry casks in Spain. 29th of June, 601 bottles in the Outturn. That's a big cask. That was not very leaky. It looks like 57.8% alcohol. So sherry butts are typically about 500 liters in size. So it's impressive that with a transfer, this one still ended up being that kind of Outturn. This is, and I'm still getting a lot of citrus on this one, which I was not expecting. It's like barbecued lemon or lemon with some caramelized sugar on it. Even almost into neo-citron notes. Marmalade again.
The peaches as well.
Peaches, just not millions of them, but some peaches in this one. A smaller amount of peaches. Yeah, even into like orange pico tea notes or red rose tea if you prefer.
Ooh. Well, I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of this one.
That's fair, man. More for the rest of us.
Maybe it was the ones before it. I don't know.
Should have stuck with just one sherry cask, not two maybe.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that's some sweet up front with those sherry notes, but it goes very nutty and spicy on the finish.
Yeah, I think
not totally drying, but definitely on the sweet, almost cloying side on the palate. Almost into like aged rum territory on the sweetness.
Yeah.
Tons of that again, a sort of molassesy brown sugar without the licorice notes coming through or anything else. Not savory necessarily, but very nutty for me. Gonna try it with water just for kicks. Will Christie says strong custard note. Chris Walker says, I like big butts, just to keep with the musical theme that we have going on, I guess. He cannot lie.
You know, water I think water improved it.
Right on. That's cool. Not something that I would expect to happen with sherry and also
No.
with cask finishes necessarily.
No,
Hey, Sammy. Sammy, I did not notice you were here. I apologize.
No, I came late. I have to go out to supper, with the wife. It's her birthday today, so
Right on. Well, we're just trying Mary Cherry Sherry if
Yeah.
you want to join along with
I am
us for-
listening. I don't have the kid. I forgot to pick it up.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't ask you what your tasting notes are then at the moment.
Okay.
it's getting. Hey, Sammy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's getting better, Evan. The
Yeah,
more
I
I,
agree.
the more I, maybe it's
The
the
more
water.
you drink,
What was that, Sammy?
The more you
the more
drink.
he drink,
The
better
more he
is.
drinks, the better it gets. Yeah. The more everyone drinks, the better I get, usually is the way it goes on these things.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. The first nose of it, not good, but much better now.
Chris is not a fan, it sounds like.
I wasn't either, Chris, but it's getting better.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, I'm not going to say it needs water, but I feel like I get more off the palate with water.
Yeah,
It has this underlying starchiness that comes out where it was just nutty before.
Yeah.
Where you're getting into like almost like sweet potato notes and even roasted potato notes in a cool manner for me.
without water.
With water.
Oh, with water. Okay.
Even into like roasted carrots.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Very savory for a sherry cask.
Yeah, savory, but not like that sharp, meaty savory. Like this is a vegetarian stew, I would say. Like it's not like full on beef broth or anything like that, but it definitely has those root vegetable notes for me right now, which I think is really intriguing. It's not something I pick up on a lot of sherry casks typically.
You just need to drink more, Chris. Chris says my palate is drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Chris, at Kensington Wine Market with these tastings, we try and set the bar as low as possible, and I'm kind of upset that you can't reach our level when it comes down to it.
You know what? You're setting that you have set the bar really low because you're always exceeding my expectations, and and they're not that high.
Well, I guess thank you.
I'm not even sure what that's supposed to be. You forgot to block us from unmuting ourselves, by the way.
Yeah, I don't regret it so far. Maybe I'll have to change that in the future, but it's all good.
Yeah, this one's just not doing it for me. But I'm looking forward to getting to the second round on this one.
Yeah,
Like the first thing that put me off is like the nose on it was like it was being slapped with a stinky sock filled with stale porridge or something.
Yeah, no, that's what I got too. The nose set me off.
well, we'll try and help you along on getting to the second round. Let's try number 7 here.
7.
So number 7 is called Fruity Time Travel, from Plural on the cast type, second fill ex-bourbon Hogs Heads, 1,326 bottles from the Outturn, 16th of February for the date, 57% alcohol. A little bit of peat on this one.
Yeah.
Still plenty of like, it's like I'm in the middle of a field of barley right now that's just about to be shorn, I guess. What would you call it? Harvested? Cut down in its prime, I guess we could call it. even smells like if you've ever been to Isla and been at Lafroig and for a tour, and if you've gotten a chance to go inside the kiln, not when it's on, obviously, not when they're drying the barley with the peat fire underneath. Although I'm sure that would be interesting and fun in its own way. But it does have just this lingering smoke to it, but still very, very barley driven for me on the nose.
Lots of minerals.
Yeah.
Mineral, yeah. I'm having a hard time picking out the words, but
Man, you know, on the palate, I totally get where you're coming from on there. It's like you drank the water after it's been desalinated from the ocean.
yeah.
Although there's still a little bit of salt in there, that's for sure. Some nice fresh oysters notes, but still, again, like incredibly barley driven on the palate for me.
And
So much barley, so much malt, super fresh oatmeal notes.
Softer peat too. It's not.
Yeah, very soft peat. Like it's the embers of a fire, not something that's just like blowing a bunch of smoke in your face. A little bit of puffed wheat cereal in there.
This embodies everything that's beautiful about whiskey. I'm really, really liking this one. This one and was it the Canadian one? The hanky-panky one, Empress Hotel.
Nice.
Are for sure
The
my
hanky-panky?
favorite thing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I gotta say, like, I of course tasted this to sort of set the order of the lineup. I haven't, and that was near the beginning of June, just after doing the June Outturn virtually and in store. I think it might have been even the next day, or maybe even just the week after that. I set this tasting, tasted through them once. This is my only time tasting them since. This one did not hit me when I ran through the lineup as much as it is now. I don't think it's the most complex whiskey in the world necessarily, but I really like what's there. That fresh barley note is just really, really neat, and those mineral notes in there as well, as Cam said.
Well, yeah, you're right though, but it's like it's simple, if you will, but it's so well executed. Like each element just does what it's supposed to do. It's like a great piece of blues music, right? The drums do what they're supposed to do. The bass does what it's supposed to do. The guitar does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Just trying it with water now.
Yeah.
Sorry, go Cam.
It's very easy drinking. Like, you know, a lot of people, this might be one for somebody who is not a fan of peat to introduce them to this one. It gives you a little bit of peat, but nothing too crazy.
Takes the water really nicely too, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Water didn't change the nose too much, except for a little bit more of like roasting marshmallows by the fire note for me. A little bit of cotton candy in there as well, but those mineral notes went really chalky on the palate, but in a cool manner. Slight Parma violet note, not heavy for me, but it's there. A little bit more sort of honeydew melon in there as well for me.
Yeah, melons for sure. I don't get the Parma violet.
But you know, there's that melons thing, and one of my favorite sort of appetizers is prosciutto and melons, right? So this is almost like the melon, but the smoke from the prosciutto without actually the prosciutto itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good call. So you're into melons and big butts, is that what you're saying?
No, that's what you're inferring.
Okay, well, cool lineup. Chris has given us Hanky Panky and Fruity Time Travel for his favorite so far. Cam, what do you think?
Well, I really liked the Hanky Panky. I think was number one, but I'd like to go through them again. Always
Yeah,
go
me too.
through the second time before I make my final.
Agreed. I will have to start putting these live as we go through. For those of you that are looking to potentially order afterwards. So let's go back to whiskey number one, which was Marmalade Overdrive.
Okay.
So not a ton we can reveal on this one beyond the price and the age, because as I said, blended malt, we don't know which distilleries it came from. Could have been even a parcel that was purchased as blended malt to start with. I'm not sure if the Scotch Malt Whisky Society did the blending or just the some of the maturation and then cask finishing. But finished in a cool and different cask. For some of the notes that are missing, this is 14 years old for Marmalade Overdrive.
And it says 11. It contains 11-year-old Speyside whiskeys in it.
Yeah. And then the remainder of the life after 11 years, it was married into Australian Shiraz barrels for 3 years. Yeah, I'm nose-wise, I wouldn't guess that a Shiraz cask would make this nose. It's pretty pleasant. That's not a cask that I would expect to have a delicate touch on a whiskey, that's for sure, especially for 3 years. And I mean, there might be a little bit of wine in there, but it's not a winey cask, and it's not overly astringent or anything like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool stuff.
So no number for that one because it's a blend.
Yeah.
The price is $166.
That's right. And those of you that are looking for it, there's the link. Okay, next up is Youth of Today. Noses opened up a little bit on this one, not heavily.
This one's a returning bottle, we see,
It is.
from the November Outturn.
Yeah, November of 2022.
So I have a suggestion. Anytime you out-turn a bottle that's been previously turned out, we should have a bonus bottle. Just a thought.
Well, we gave you this one bottle and added 6 bonus bottles in there for you, Matt.
You should be in sales, Evan.
I am in sales.
I know.
This is why they pay me the moderate dollars, I guess. So this is, yeah, go ahead, Cam. Sorry.
Okay. So the region is Speyside. It is a 12-year-old, 18th of November, 2012. And the distillery is 48.146, which makes it Belminic.
And in November, that Belminic was an 8-year-old.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's aged quite a bit then.
That's right. It is an 8-year-old. I apologize, Cam, if I gave you the wrong notes there.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. That was my fault, Chris, not Cam's.
Well, I thought perhaps the SMWS had taken on South Korea's method of aging.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's actually 7 years old now, believe it or not.
I'm very good. I'm confused. All I know is I'd be still in my mid-30s if I was living in Seoul again.
That's right.
So this one, did this one not sell very well in the November Outturn?
No, it didn't. And I think it's not that it's a bad whiskey. This sometimes happens where stuff just gets lost in the shuffle of an Outturn based on the order it's in or how it shows in the lineup. we've also had a decent amount of 48s over the last couple of years. And Belminic isn't a distillery that just sells itself for people. It's one where if you're like me, you probably don't really have a good idea of what Belminic does or what it is, beyond the fact that they make Cowran gin as well. But we don't see a lot of Belminic out there except from independent bottlers. It's typically used just in blending, but it's got this nice sort of like, it's not thin, but it's a restrained fruity and waxy note to it without being over the top. It's not like in the age of give me the hoppiest beer you can, or give me the biggest red wine you can, or the smokiest whiskey. It's not one that's going to jump off the shelves because of that. But it still is a really good whiskey and made really well, in my opinion. It's got, again, a fairly restrained nose, really nice barley notes coming off there right now for me, but not one that just jumps out of the glass at you like a lot of whiskeys do nowadays.
So this one, it's funny. I wasn't really fussy about this one back in November, and my opinion holds. But I purchased two other Belminics through SMWS.
Yep.
There was I had the St. Friends one, so the Sauternes cask one,
Mm.
and Wormsoak, which I think was a sherry. I can't remember exactly what it was. And those two were brilliant. Like, I thought they were like.
Yep.
So when this showed up in the Outturn, I was like, oh, I'm excited because I so enjoyed the other two. Right.
Mhm.
But it's this one. It's like, it's not horrible. Somebody pours it to me, I'm not gonna chuck it down the drain. Probably wouldn't spend my own money.
I think it's quite good, actually. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I'm surprised it's a returning bottle and it hasn't sold.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, and to the returning bottle note, Will Christie asked, I think this was mentioned in previous months, but did we only end up with 6 releases in the last few months? So yeah, well, for the typically how it goes is in the months of June, July, and August. Those 3 months specifically, we usually have 1 returning bottle in the Outturn. It's been honestly pretty difficult to do this year and last year, just because we don't have a whole lot of bottles that just languish on the shelves. A lot of the stuff just seems to sell.
Each one.
But so even like this one, I think we have 6 bottles left. It's not like we have 24 bottles sitting around of something that we need to shove in your face until you guys buy it. It's just trying to find something that works in the lineup as it is from a previous Outturn, because it can be difficult nowadays to get 7 new releases for a small-ish, I guess, Scotch Malt Whisky Society community that we have in Canada. We have a bit more buying power, or quite a bit more buying power than we did when Robin Kelly first launched everything more than a decade back. But they still, especially with shipping issues as they've been, have to make sure that they have enough coming in on shipments to cover the Outturns as it is. So this allows them, with having the 1 returning bottle in the summertime, one to kind of prepare for having a smaller amount of people going to the tastings, which usually happens in the summer with all the travel that people do. Although with virtual tastings, that's kind of changed. But it also allows them to sort of like keep on paving that runway into the future, so that they have 7 bottle releases for the rest of the year. And for us at the Kensington Wine Market and the other shops, it does allow us to showcase a bottle that maybe just didn't get its due in the Outturn that it originally came in.
I think we forgot the price on this one. It's $126, if we didn't say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and again, the nice thing about Belminic is you're not paying the Isla tax or the sherry tax on a lot of these things. It's usually is a very well priced bottle. Okay, next up is Millions of Peaches.
Well, my wife hijacked that one from me, so
Peaches for free, it seems.
So we know which one she likes.
That's right.
So this one
Oh,
is,
that nose has not changed, I gotta say. Like it's still
no.
all over there.
So this one is from Wales, is the region, which makes it Penderyn. Cask number is 128.17. It's 11 years old. 8th of September 2010.
Yeah, and I should actually look this up. We have had what I believe is a sister cast to this one fairly recently. I think it was it 128.19? Yeah, which we have a few bottles left of. 128.19 was called Pretty Wacky. It was
Similar profile?
Yeah, it had that fuzzy peach note all over the nose.
Yeah.
This one's juicier, if I recall correctly, between the two, although I haven't side by sided them. And oh, it is not a true sister cask. So the distillation date on this one is 6th of September 2010. The 128.19, which was Pretty Wacky, was 25th of September 2010. Definitely a lot of DNA similarities between the two, though.
That's really cool. Price for that one?
If I like it, though.
You don't like it?
I don't know. So this one reminds me when I used to live in Edmonton, and I used to go through sort of the city center shopping center to get to the parkade where my car was parked. I used to have to walk past one of these nail salon places, right? The mani-pedi places, but about 50 feet away. So this reminds me of that smell oozing out of there. But if they made a Febreze that was made with peach flavored White Claw, which they injected into whatever, so they're pumping it in the common area. That's what the nose on this thing. So a lot of acetone type of stuff with artificial peach flavors in it. But from not Southern Comfort. That just gives me nightmares, that stuff.
It's different. It's kind of cool.
It's interesting.
It's interesting, very interesting.
It's interesting. And it's one of those, I'm almost tempted to buy the whole bottle and drink it like in one sitting to see if I actually end up liking it. But then it's like country music, so I will like it at the end.
Yeah. Or
right.
It'll just make it so Penderyn is like Southern comfort to you. For some reason.
Southern Penderyn comfort, Welsh comfort.
So this is a very common flavor with Penderyn, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it seems like it, and Will seems to be on board with that idea.
I got a buddy here in Montreal who has a Penderyn bottle, that a special one that somebody brought for him, but he hasn't opened it yet. So I have to talk him into opening that, see if it's
absolutely.
Jen and I had a wonderful experience in Brighton in the UK with a Penderyn bottle. Tried to replicate it when we were back here and couldn't, and ended up with Penderyn. It was horrible.
Well, those acetone notes, like I get where you're coming from, and that's, to me, that's where I'm getting that full on, like going to a nail shop where there's pedicures and manicures happening all over the place. Like it does have that nail polish-esque note to it.
Yeah, then it gets gentle like a car spray place. Like automotive paint.
Okay. Price on this one, I don't think we mentioned, was $220.
Yeah, I did almost play the entire YouTube video for the Peaches song by President of the United States for you guys, but yeah, I figure you guys can listen to that on your own time. But maybe next we'll get a bottling called Dune Buggy or Lump, just to keep with the theme.
Okay, on to the next one.
Yeah, back to Hanky Panky.
Hanky Panky, and it still smells great. Wood notes are really coming out on it.
Yeah, It's got like a barbecued pork ribs note to it in a good manner for me as well.
Yeah, this one's still my favorite so far.
Mhm.
Somebody should inform Cam's wife that Cam likes hanky panky better than anything else.
Luckily, she has headphones on.
See, Chris, like we do set the
You're gonna
bar
get
low
me in
here, but
trouble.
you just managed to limbo right underneath it.
Yeah. Oh, I really like this one. It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It is very multifaceted.
All right, so let's get down to the details on this one. So this one is from Speyside. It is 11 years old. No, pardon me, it's 15 years old. 11 years in an ex-bourbon Hoggy. And then the remainder in a first fill Spanish oak Oloroso Hoggy. 29th of February, 2008. Cask number is 18.57, which makes it an inch gower.
Yeah, not a distillery we've seen a lot from.
18.57.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also this was what did you say, a Canada Day one or something, Evan?
Yeah, so this was Canada Day bottling. That was Robin Kelly Carpenter, or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society of Canada, has been talking with the Scotch Malt Whisky Society headquarters about doing something like this, potentially as a series, hopefully as a series, where we'll get another one next July. And this is the first Canada Day bottling from the SMWS. Hence the Canadianisms in there with the nods to the Tragically Hip and the Empress Hotel. Very cool. I still think I got the first Canadianism on a bottle with my cheesy's note on the bottle. I got to write the label notes on a while back, but definitely didn't get the hip in there, which I should have.
Yeah, honestly, the Hip's a bad band with some good songs.
Yeah. Well, if it was me, like I know Kurt is definitely more of a Tragical Hip fan than I am. I would have probably had something talking about the Headstones, and then nobody would have known who I was talking about, or the Tea Party on there. So
it's funny you brought Headstones up. I was having a Canada or a Centipede conversation with a friend of mine today, and Jen and I saw the Headstones at Roundup Music Fest a few years ago, and they were just
nice.
And their cover of the
Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
What's that?
Yeah. Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
Well, Tweeter and the Monkey Man, and also what's Kenny Rogers' song where the dude dies in his sleep playing cards? No walk.
They
away,
do it.
No one to walk away, no one to run, no one to hold.
Wow, I've never heard them do the cover of that. That's fantastic.
You can only find it live, and it's brilliant. It's
Cool.
So it's not recorded anywhere. It's some fan recorded thing on YouTube. The recording quality is shitty, but they do such a good job of it live. It's absolutely brilliant.
I can almost hear it in my head, where it's probably like a sped up, punkier, sort of like heavier version of it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. It's yeah. And
I'll have to take a look for that YouTube note.
getting the lyric on, like it's almost like if you thought Run DMC doing Walk This Way, where they're all hitting certain lyrics at the same time. That's Headstones doing the Kenny Rogers thing, right? But as a rock punk song, not as a rap.
So Will says this has improved, or it's drunker than an hour ago.
You didn't like it the first time around?
Yeah.
Price on this one? Right. Price on this one's $238, by the way.
I dig this guy, by the way.
That yeah, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing, Will, that's not your favorite. Well, you did like it, but it's better now. Could be
Nice.
that you are drunker.
Well, let's go back to a straight no chaser.
Straight, no
Oh, and
chase.
I don't think I did add the, did I? I don't think I shared the link for Hanky Panky. Yeah, Michael's right. There is so much great Canadian music out there. Kurt turned me on to a guy named Devin Townsend a couple of years back that is from Vancouver and does great operatic sort of like wall of sound metal in a cool manner. But there's some very good Canadian and underrated Canadian bands out there. Okay, back to something that's not Canadian.
All right.
Sure.
So this one, the region is Indiana. So it's a bourbon. It is 5 years old, 1st of February, 2016. The number on it is B7.5, which makes it a MGP Midwest Grain Products distillery. Which, do they even have any regular bottles?
They do now.
They
That's
do?
something that's just started. So this is the first MGP bourbon we've had. We have had an MGP rye. It was the first rye whiskey we had from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society a couple, I think it was back in March. And it was a fantastic single cask rye from them. Super fruity and some nice citrus and dill notes, which MGP does great with their 95% rye mash bill. But they do some fantastic bourbon as well. In fact, Harmony and I were actually just in Washington at a company's warehouse where this company sources casks from MGP distillery and then ages them and sometimes finishes it in different casks themselves. And we selected a cask of MGP bourbon that's going to be bottled for a shop. Hopefully it'll be here by October. So it'll be 6.5 years old from one of their bourbon mash bills. But MGP is quietly put out a ton of rye and bourbon. They are a massive distillery. Used to be owned by Seagram's back years and years ago, and is the largest distillery in Indiana, and one of the largest whiskey distilleries in America, as far as I know. But is known for in my opinion, making one of the best rye whiskeys in North America, right up there almost with Alberta Distillers, for their 95% rye mash bill, and does some fantastic bourbon as well. They do bottle under the name Ross and Squibb Distillery, which they've just started doing, and their bottlings for bourbon are usually under the name George Remus, and then they also bottle rye under. What's the name of that one? I'll have to look it up. It's not Minor Case, it's another one. But yeah, they do have their own official bottlings. Typically they are net cask strength and single cask. But when you can find plenty of their single cask stuff from independent bottlers, and it always tends to be really good.
This one is interesting for a bourbon because there's a lot more spice in it than most bourbons. And admittedly, I'm not a huge bourbon fan and knowledgeable about it. But I just find this one has more spice than most of the bourbons that I've tried, right? So that's probably some of the Woodford Reserves or whatever, right? Even some of the stuff that we find in tastings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when we first tasted through it, maybe led astray by the tasting notes. I was leaning more towards rye than towards bourbon, but I would say bourbon is like, yeah, we're picking up some of that stuff that you would more notice in bourbons.
I really like it. I think it might be my second favorite.
Nice.
Number
Yeah,
two.
It would be my third.
Third. Oh, bourbon's in there. Number three.
Yeah, there's that second go round. Either my palate has evolved over the evening, or the whiskey itself has evolved over the evening.
Or you have a drunk palate like me now.
That's impossible. I don't drink. Evan, I chucked a link to a YouTube video, Headstones during the Gambler, into the chat.
Nice. Yeah, I did see that. I've actually got it loaded up in a tab, so I can try it. I can listen to it after the tasting. Thanks for that.
but it's even better when you get to see them perform it live. It's just brilliant. So much fun.
Nice.
Price for that one is $135.
Yeah, very well priced. That's less
It is.
expensive than the rye was, from what I recall. And of course, this is the charity bottle for their Giving Spirit bottle that where all proceeds that the SMWS makes go to the Red Cross, which is a very well thought out idea by Robin Kelly. Yeah, fantastic bourbon. This is probably my favorite of the night.
Yeah, it's really good.
I do have one thing, Evan, as our sort of resident SMWS person here.
Mhm.
By that I mean most influenced. I'm very offended that when they say it's the US ones, they state plus country, but for Shelter Point, they just put Canada. They didn't put BC. Like I think, like, you know, size-wise, we are bigger. I know we have fewer borders and boundaries than they do, but I think we're due the same respect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially considering it's like even there's even, you could argue there's definitely regionality for whiskey in Canada as well, just like there's regionality for whiskey in the US.
I mean, a single malt from Temiskaming in northern Quebec is not going to taste the same as a single malt from Vancouver Island.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
Okay, next up.
Michael Ewan's looking at me like I'm an idiot.
Well, the nose is a little better than the first time around on this one.
Focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah. For Mary Cherry Sherry.
Yeah. It's improved.
I don't think it has. I think it just
It noses like a combination of like Harvey's Bristol Cream and Ovaltine right now for me.
no, that's not good.
Well, it's malt and sherry, so it's not that far off.
Reminds me of years and years ago, my wife and I used to make the homemade wine, which was garbage, but was cheap. And we made this, the South African pinotage.
Oh, pinotage.
Yeah, and the oak wood chips that we put in there left a terrible flavor to the wine. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting on this.
Pinotage tends to have a
Very earthy
very
flavor, right?
eccentric and earthy flavor. Like
Yeah.
it's almost the Lecheg of grapes, where there's definitely pinotage that comes off where it noses like a rubbery tire fire stylistically.
That's kind of what I'm getting in this, little bit of that flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see where you're going, where it's got this, it's not like rubbery, but it's like a really syrupy plastic in a way. That's where I'm getting those slightly rum-like notes on it as well, with those big brown sugar notes.
Well, I'm wondering if I'm picking up, if it, maybe there's a little sulfur in it, if that's what I'm picking up.
Could be. I'm not like.
I don't know. Does anybody else have experience with sulfur? Maybe they.
Yeah, I think you're right, Cam, that there is a sulfuric note to it. It's just, this has changed. Like, I haven't tasted it this second go around. The nose for sure has changed, but not necessarily for the better.
Mhm.
Right? It's just different. Like the first round, the nose really put me off. I think my expectations were set from the first go round, so the second go round, the nose isn't up as much.
So who was better?
Yeah, I still don't mind this one. Like between the two sherries, I do prefer the Hanky Panky personally. I find that it's got a little bit more dimensionality to it, but
All right, let's do the reveal on this one. So
sounds good.
The region is Speyside. It is 11 years old, 9 years in an ex-Oloroso butt, and then finished in a first fill Oloroso ex-Bodega butt. It is 29th of June, 2010, Speyside, I think I mentioned. Cask number 41.149, which makes it a Deluane.
Mm-hmm.
And the price is $152.
Okay, so I wouldn't get, and I just had a recent independently bottled Deluane. I would, if you put those two in front of me side by side blind, I would not be able to tell they were from the same distillery.
Completely different.
And
Well, it does have
the
some
other
waxiness
idea
to
I
it,
had,
but
it
it's,
was-
yeah, I know there's been a recent GNM Deluane that shows quite a bit differently, and I believe
Yeah,
our
that
single
GNM
cask
value
Deluane does as well.
It was that was when Michael, you were there when we finished the flask on the bus, right? And that was just a brilliant bottle. It was like $120 or something like that. It was absolutely delicious. And that's not to say I was like, oh, I can't taste Deluane anymore. I absolutely can, because I had such a wonderful experience the first time. So I'm gonna say this is just a one-off. Something went weird. They tried. I shouldn't say went weird. This one, I think, is something that some people will absolutely love this one.
Mhm.
I think
Yep.
some people will absolutely love this one. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, I can understand that. And again, for me, I like it, but if I'm picking between sherry's, Hanky Panky wins it for me.
So, yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
Anything else to reveal on that one?
No, I think that was it. I think I did the
Cool.
price 152. I think that was it.
Yeah. Kelly did mention on this one, so it says transferred from first fill Oloroso X into a first fill Oloroso X Bodega. So the intimation here is the 9 years spent in the next Oloroso, but was probably second fill or potentially a seasoned sherry cask where they just put sherry in to impart character to the cask itself, then dumped it and put the whiskey in. Whereas the first fill Oloroso X Bodega butt is they see it as a true sherry cask, where it was used at the sherry bodega for years for aging sherry, and definitely had plenty of sherry character to offer, and it was likely ex-Spanish oak for that one as well.
So, you know what? That brings up an interesting point, because if it's a seasoned one, rather than we've actually aged the sherry in it, it turns out some of us who used to be really big fans of Avalor Abunas, sort of the latest release of that, which was done in, I'm told, were seasoned sherry casks rather than aging sherry casks. Completely different character. And if I think kind of like close my eyes and things like, oh yeah, there might be some similarities, because if it's a seasoning cask rather than an aging cask, there's a certain amount of harshness that comes through from it, right? Rather than some softness and some beautiful flavors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've seen it, or feel I've seen that in two Edrington distilleries where Highland Park 18 isn't the way it was going back 10 or 15 years, where it had a greater depth of sherry and wasn't taken over by the sherry, but just married together with the whiskey to a greater degree than it does nowadays. And it's kind of like going back to Macallan sherry versus the Fine Oak series, or even their double or triple oak ones now, where they're trying to or are forced to impart sherry characteristics into something instead of actual sherry character in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's almost they're trying to fulfill a market demand rather than create art, right? It's and with this stuff, especially some of the high-end stuff that people on this call, that many of us we pay for, we don't want the consumerized commodity. That's not what we pay for. We do pay for the art, and we're happy to pay for the art.
It's hard though, because I mean, when it comes down to it, it's our fault as consumers, because we consume too much sherried whiskey and not enough sherry when it comes down to it.
Well, if they make the sherry taste better, I'd fucking drink it.
Yeah,
So
or if you
the
can
last
get
one,
a higher strength sherry. Yeah, let's go on to the last one.
That's
on to the
straight
last
sherry.
last one is the only peated one in the group tonight. So
Yeah.
this one is from Isla. And you can probably tell from the outturn, the number of bottles, that it is a small batch.
Mhm.
17 years old, 16th of February 2004, and it is from Bowmore. But there's no number on it because it's a batch.
Yeah, and I believe, yeah, this is Isla Whiskey Festival or Feshiel bottling from 2022. The last,
It's from Bowmore, but not a
Mhm.
single cask.
yeah,
Not a
so it's
single-
a small batch Bowmore. This is something that the SMWS has been doing with their festival release bottlings for the Speyside and the Isla Whiskey Festival and the Campbelltown Festival. Because the difficulty they found with doing single casks that were selected for Feshiel is they could sell it at Feshiel itself or at their UK headquarters in a lot of cases, but there wasn't enough to share with the rest of the world. But this way they can get that released into the hands of a few different national chapters like Canada and the US and the UK and some of the European chapters and Asian chapters as well, and share it around and have everybody experience what they've created. It's the upside and the downside of small batch bottling. The upside of this one is it's still bottled at a cask strength, but it is not quite as finite as other stuff. But the upside of it not being as finite is that we get to get some of it.
Regardless, it's freaking bro. I love this one.
Yeah, me too.
I
I
really
like
is
this
very
so
good.
much more the second time around from when I tasted it the first time to set the lineup.
Yeah.
And I mean, tasting this one was no brainer. I didn't really have to focus on it because I knew it was going to go last. It wasn't like I was going to put this first in the lineup or anything like that. But being able to actually focus on it now, I'm quite liking it.
Yeah, it's good.
No, I think it's absolutely this one is absolutely lovely. It's like, and I stand by what I said the first round. This is nosing this has got all those elements in a whiskey that just make whiskey wonderful and beautiful what it is, right? You got that peatiness and the salinity and the minerality and there's absolute fruitiness in it and there's the cereal, the barley is in it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's really good for sure.
this is lovely.
For being an Isla bottling, it would have to be a Bowmore because it isn't like the just full blown peat that you get out of a Lefroy Grenard bag or even Kalila sometimes or so on and so forth. Bowmore is the only one that really does peated Isla in this manner where it's the peat is there, but it doesn't necessarily take over all the time. And this is what makes really good Bowmore. Like I kind of liken it, even though it's not the same style, but to the 18-year-old, which I think is a fantastic bottling. There's definitely more sherry to the 18-year-old versus this one, but what makes it so fantastic is it's not just peated whiskey. It's really well balanced whiskey, no matter where it comes from.
This one, I think this one Bowmore, this one and some other Bowmores that I've had. I've had some Bowmores that I just didn't like at all, but this one, some other ones have been beautiful. But this one I think is like the fine dining of Isla whiskeys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just because it's just got all those elements and they just play so nicely with each other.
Mhm.
Yeah,
very complimentary. I love this.
Very well balanced.
And
This
how many
one
monies, Ken?
for the price, there's Isla tax on this one. It is $355.
yeah. So this is the last, the only Bowmore we've seen since another Feshiel bottling we had in 22 called, I think it was Exotic Miso Glazed Soup, or Miso Glazed something at least.
Yes, I remember that one.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't think I quite liked that one because I didn't buy it. If I liked it, I would have bought it.
This one's, I mean, it's up to you to decide whether it's worth the price or not, but this is a pretty cool Bowmore.
It's very good.
So-
Number
so,
3 for me tonight.
As I mentioned to somebody several weeks ago, we were out and I'd spent too much money on something, and it's like, focus on the value, no. So not what you paid for it, what did you get out of it? And then Chris teaches how to shut a conversation down in a second.
So what were your favorites, Evan?
I think it's going to be Hanky Panky, followed by a tie between Straight No Chaser and Fruity Time Travel. So
Okay.
5 is my number 1, and then, or sorry, 4 is my
4.
number 1, and then 5 and 7 as my runners up. How about you,
Yeah,
Ken?
you're. Yeah, I'm with you. I liked the Hanky Panky. I really did like the bourbon,
Mhm.
and then the Bowmore. Those are my top 3.
Phil and Suzanne are eating fuzzy peaches and then dipping them in millions of peaches, the empty glass.
Yeah.
Isn't that how black holes are created? Like that's how time kind of loops in on itself, isn't it? Well, really cool Outturn. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I have to run because we've got family here, so I should probably say hello and pretend to be social. But I'm glad I got to socialize with all you guys in the meantime. Hopefully we'll see you in August. There'll probably be a smaller amount again for this and the live tasting. So grab those kits while you can if you're interested when then we put them up. And then September we'll probably get into pouring multiple bottles to get this done if there's enough interest in it again. Thank you again. Thank you to Cam for taking up your old spot again.
Thanks
It's good
for
to co-host you,
thanks for
with
asking me
these
to
guys. Yeah.
be involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great. It was fun.
absolutely. We'll continue to do this no matter where you move to, man.
All right. All right.
Thanks
Bye,
again,
everybody.
Yeah. Have a great night.
All right.